right, are you aware that the biggest organic banana farm in the world is located in Ghana?
We are, as far as we know, the biggest organic banana farm in the world.
The whole world. This place. Yes.
Alors, yeah, here in Kasunia. Yeah.
Really?
Yes.
The biggest organic banana farm. Yes.
In the world.
In the world. Yes. In the world. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Worldwide. Yes. The biggest organic banana farm in the world. In the world.
Yeah.
Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. My name is Delphina and I'm super happy returning back to you. Today I come here with an amazing video, guys. This video has been on my table for like 3 days today, and I'll be like, okay, let me just bring it up here for you to also see and again be aware, because I know a lot of you do not know that we have this amazing thing in Ghana. You know, we have really amazing stuff in Ghana that so many people do not even know. It surprised me that recently I posted a video. I mean, today I posted a video and people do not even know that we have Nkwame Nkrumah Senior High School in Ghana. Well, you know, I'm full of surprise. I'll be bringing amazing things for you like this to see. So in today's video, I'm going to be taking you guys through the biggest organic banana farm here in Ghana. I know most of you do not know about this, so it's amazing. It's amazing. It's an amazing thing. I do not know also. This is my first time getting to know. I don't mean in Africa or the biggest in the world. Isn't it amazing? Ghana, this Ghana that people are calling small. So many things are in this country that people do not really know about. It's high time for us to start respecting small countries. Yeah, countries we call small because they are small but mighty. All right then, guys, let me walk you through I'm seated too, but I'm walking you through in your dreams. Let me walk you through the organic banana farmland, the biggest in the world. Ooh la la. But before we watch, I would love to appreciate my returning subscribers. Thank you so much for always clicking in. And if you're new here, my name is Delphina. I'm super happy to have you here. Please don't make it your last by subscribing to the channel, like this video and share the video. Also don't to press the notification bell to get notified whenever I drop another one. Let's watch.
We are, as far as we know, the biggest organic banana farm in the world.
The whole world. This place. Yes.
Alors, yeah, here in Kasunia. Yeah.
Really?
Yes.
The biggest organic banana farm.
Yes. In the world.
In the world. Yes. In the world. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Worldwide. Yes. The biggest organic banana farm in the world. In the world.
Yeah. Yeah.
Basically, we just brought you to the closest sector because the farm is very long. It's 12 kilometers north to south. 12 kilometers, it's East Legon to Jamestown. So we're from far the biggest banana producer and exporter from Ghana. And one of the leading exporter of fresh fruit too, around 65%. Basically, we are exporting 105,000 tons per year. Here, on 3 different farms, we have 4,000 more. So 30% of our surface is organic banana, and 70% is.
So come here. So basically, we have 300 bunches that have been harvested right now. They are coming here. And then they are washed. That's the first wash. In order to get rid of insects, spider web and stuff like that. In order to reduce the risk also in terms of fungus diseases. So that's the first one. And after, let me show you. Voila. So you see there is quite a good pressure. And on each ribbon we have a barcode that is scanned with the GPS position. So I know the GPS position of all my bunches on the farm. Why? So because in terms of traceability I have to know where from us. I can have for each plot the number of bunches, my yields, my premium rate, and I can then adapt my instruction for each plot in order to be more efficient. Come with me.
And this helps with the EUDR.
Now EUDR is now weighted, and thanks to the barcode, my GPS position will be linked to the weight. That's how I can exactly know the yield of each plot. According to the season, to the year, I take the time frame I want, and that's it. Please follow me.
Very good data.
Yeah. It's huge. Afternoon. step of the process is what we call the de-ending. It's a very basic selection between the largest bananas and the smallest one. That is the tool that we use to weight the bunches. So you can see here, the average weight is 23 kilo. The last one was at 22.8. And that's how we are keeping our records. Once the hands have been put in this de-ending pool, then we start with the selection, the cutting, because even if we are selling a fresh fruit, we have 30 different references, which means that each one has a different specification from the other. So please follow me. Afternoon. So this is our workers in charge of the cutting. So to optimize the quality of the fruit, because our quality is all about cosmetic quality. So to make sure that we respect the specification, but we also don't have too much waste. What is very important to explain also is that all our banana waste is going to our compost site that you saw when we entered.
Yes.
So last year we did 13,000 tons of compost homemade.
13,000.
Yeah, for mostly for organic farm, but also a bit for the conventional farm. Once it is done, we have different pools for different specifications. By the rule, it must stay like 15 minutes into the water in order to get rid of the latex, and then they are put on the trails. So it's decanted and then it goes into the collectors. No, we can't reuse it. We don't. The investment would be way too important for that. It is sent after for the post harvest. First, we cross-check the weight because our box are supposed to do 18.5 kg with a margin of error of plus or minus 100 grams. Very precise. So we are cross-check the first time the weight of the trail. Then we put the post-harvest in order to increase the shelf life of the product, because all those bananas are going by boat to Europe. So it's minimum 2 weeks of boats, knowing that they stay in the shed 9 in Tema Port, where we have the cold room that we manage.
United States.
No, it would be, I think, way too far for us. Actually, 2 days ago, someone wanted to sell bananas to Canada. I told him it wouldn't be a good idea because we would lose most probably the quality at the arrival. It's minimum to Italy or Spain. Otherwise, all the fruits going to the Sahel, Burkina, Benin, etc., goes by a truck. It's not possible. That's the issue with the banana. One figure. Our group has been producing around 500,000 tons last year in Africa. So that's a lot. But then the first producer in the world, that is Ecuador, is literally the size of Ghana, has been producing 7 million tons. So actually we seem to be big, but we are not actually that big. And the competition on the market is ferocious.
Banana coming from either Ecuador or Costa Rica.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. This is almost the end of the process. Each one of them is 18.5. It is put in boxes. Very great. We like our banana
Blending it. So do you have ongoing litigation, for example?
Oh,
or-
yes.
You do?
Yes.
Still, huh?
It has come down, but it's a poultry farm. No?
Yes.
We hope to get application of the irrigation facility. We hope to have the water now into our system. If we're able to get the water, even though it's now
Done the concreting, okay, for large sections of the canal. But for the historical view is that this canal is from the entrance of Nigeria has come about 16.5 kilometers, and it was constructed in the acoustic views, which were known as very heavy clays. And so originally the design, because it was going through those heavy clays, it was not nice. So it was noted that it has minimal loss to space. But over time, we realized the challenges. And so, with the amount available, we have been able to line large sections of the canal, including approaches to where they come from.
When we are talking about organic, like the country that eats the most organic products, you guys will come and be saying, and Ghana stuff is not organic, especially what they eat. They love importing things from abroad most of the time. I'm here to let you know that we have found a farm, an organic banana farm in Ghana, and which is the biggest. What I mean, the biggest in the world. The biggest organic banana farm is found in Ghana, guys. Well, this isn't coming from my mouth, but it's coming from tourists.
Now, farmers have been encouraged to use and apply organic fertilizers. This, according to the Ghana Permaculture Institution in Tano Boase, in the Nkranza North District of the Bono East region, has become necessary. The institute has insisted that the use of inorganic fertilizer is not the way to go. So tell us about the organic and inorganic fertilizers. Yes, and what you have gathered.
Yeah, thank you for this opportunity here in Tano Boase. I'm currently at the I'm currently at the Ghana Permaculture Institute, where they are into a lot here. And with me here is one of the officials to introduce himself and then to walk us through some of their activities here. You are live on GBC Real Time News. Tell us your name, your position here, and then walk us through what you do here at Ghana Permaculture Institute.
Thank you very much. I am Charles Katere, the Deputy Director of Ghana Permaculture Institute. So we are located in Techiman, Bono East Region, Tano Boase, Bafi Road. Ghana Permaculture Institute was established or founded in 2003 by the late Dr. Paul Yeboah when he got the knowledge of permaculture. And then when we talk of the permaculture, it simply means that a different way of life, looking into life in a different perspective, in a holistic view, in a way we can do things naturally. That will benefit the environment, that will benefit the community, and that will benefit people around. Therefore, we follow three key principles and three ethics following all that we do. We said, whatever you do on this earth, as human beings, we need to care for the earth, we need to care for the people, we need to share surplus. And then as we will be going around, we'll be telling you how we implement this permaculture ethics. This land was acquired in 2011, and then this land was a degraded land, which was seen as a land that cannot be used to cultivate anything. So the founder acquired this land to see how best we can implement and then use our old system of farming to rehabilitate and reclaim this land. Therefore, we have been able to reclaim this land where we are planting a lot of food crops and then also processing a lot of crops over here. We will be going to one of our sectors where we distill essential oil. So at this center, we have this small structure. One of the principles that we show is that we say use simple and slow solutions. When you use simple, slow solutions, we'll be able to acquire a lot of resources and then turn waste that are seen as problem challenges into resources. So when you come to this, our small, simple structure, we have a distillation center where we plant a lot of grasses that give us fragrance, or we say essential oil. Some of these grasses are lemongrass. We have citronella grasses, where we have this biomass. We have water under, where it heats and then takes through the biomass through the distillation process, okay. And then we get between water and then oil, we have the condenser that will cool the whole heat, and then we get the essential oil and water at the same time. After distilling oil, we take the waste or the biomass, and then we apply the biomass as a mulch. One of the organic farming systems that we advise and encourage farmers to exhibit is a mulching system. When we talk of this mulching system, it is a way of fertilizing our soil and then also reducing weed growth that will not, in fact, make us to call for synthetic chemicals and then fertilizers. This is one of the mulch. After they steal oil from the grasses, we take the biomass and then we mulch it at this place. When you mulch the land, you will see that always the soil is very humid, it's very cool, and the temperature is very cool for plant growth. And then what we do is, when you mulch like this, is also reduce the weed growth, because the weeds will grow when they see sunlight. Therefore, when you plant and then you mulch, the weeds reduces and biomass decompose. We get a good fertile soil, and then also as a fertilizer. One of the things we will recall in our villages is that, when you plant at the backyard where they used to put refuse dump, you will see that the crop at the backyard will do very, very well. Why do they do that? When we talk about the soil, we are looking at organic matter, water, and microorganisms that will degrade this biomass into a fertile soil. And some of the places we use biochar, that is a charcoal. After we have processed the essential oil, we have this biochar. This biochar is not all that a fertilizer, but a nutrient house for the plant. But when you plant it, it has certain holes that is able to contain nutrients that the plants need. When it is many, it is able to release it when there's no more nutrients in the soil. That is how we look at the organic farming system. Now we are moving into some of our production facility, how we are able to add a lot of value to some of our products. So when you look at this place, all this across the moon, we have been able to mulch all this place. Therefore, we don't need to apply any chemicals or fertilizer. Currently, the reason why we don't advise and advertise for synthetic chemicals, because it is very costly, and then one way or the other, it is a way of moving into slavery again. And I will repeat that again. Synthetic chemicals, and then also the genetically modified seeds, it's a way of moving into another form of slavery. Because when I use this current happenings in Ghana, I think in September, October, when prices of things rise up, many farmers were now complaining of the price of the synthetic chemicals, which one way or the other, the only thing that the chemical fertilizer does for us in agriculture sector is to add a little bit of nutrients to the soil, and that will help the plant grow. But this is the case naturally. We already have all these nutrients that are available on the grasses, the waste that we have. Therefore, if we go back to our old way of farming, we will be able to cultivate a lot of farm crops that will not need us to use chemical fertilizer. So this is also our mushroom department. And with this mushroom department, we use principle that the output of something can become an input, and there's no waste. We begin from this place. There are a lot of job opportunities in the agribusiness sector, but the only thing is that we said when you are not able to see problems or challenges as solution, you always see it as an adversity where you think there's nothing that you can do with your problems. These are sawdust and rice bran that are an output. So the principle says that the output of something can become an input. Therefore, these sawdust are just rampant in the sawmill. We have rice farmers that also cultivate the rice. After taking the main rice, we get the rice husk. So we compost this waste. After composting, we sterilize them in this drum. At the end of the day, we have an incubation room. So we put the seeds of the mushrooms in the composted sawdust and then rice bran. And at the end of the day, we are able to get a whitish substance like this. This bag has been colonized by the mushroom tissue. Therefore, the only thing that we have to do is open this bag like this. We open it like this, and then we just water. When you water 3-4 days, you will harvest mushroom from this bag. And then these are some of the things that we do. We have farmers that come to take from this point, and then they will just water, and then they will get fruiting mushrooms. So we go to where we harvest these mushrooms. And one of the things is using local materials in creating enough wealth and then creating impact. When you look at our structure, it will not cost you more than maybe 2,000 Ghana cedis to cultivate or to create one of these structures. So we have all these mushroom bats over here. You could see that this is one of them. This is a mushroom. You water in the morning, and then in the evening you water. The next day it will start fruiting, and then you harvest. After harvesting, you can either dry it to use later, or you can use it at the spot.
Okay.
You can just go.
Okay. So when next are we moving to? And then
currently we are moving into where we process moringa seeds into moringa oil.
Yeah.
Adding value to our moringa products, and then also converting the output after harvesting the oil into fertilizer, and then also okay, so we plant this out. and then we go to the next.
Okay, so the fertilizer aspect is what I'm interested. Okay.
So one of the things, as I repeated, says that we don't have the waste is a resource. So let's go here. So this is our factory where we are able to process soya beans, we process moringa seeds into oil, and then after harvesting the oil, we have what we call the cake, moringa cake. Moringa cake. After getting the oil from the moringa seeds, we get a cake like this. We grind them into a fine powder like this, which is a very good soil conditioner. Therefore, all parts of the moringa plant, from the leaves to the seeds to the waste, that is the cake, are all good as a soil nutrient. That does not require us to buy any chemical fertilizers to apply on our crops. So these days, after pressing the oil, we are able to grind this cake into this fine powder that we can use as a fertilizer. That also has a similar or same nutrient that the chemical NPK fertilizer will add to our soil. This is also our factory where we are able to process tiger nut oil. So this is a tiger nut that we have pressed the oil. You can taste it, and then after getting the oil, this is also the cake. We are able to use this to prepare cosmetics and then also apply it as a fertilizer.
Okay, because of our time factor, wrap us through. Okay, so Dorothy, you can ask your question.
I want to find out that how can farmers have easy access to the fertilizer, and do they produce on a large scale?
You can ask your question.
I'm asking that, do they produce this fertilizer on a large scale, and how can farmers have easy access to it?
Okay, thank you very much, Dorothy. The question is that how will farmers have access to the fertilizer, and do you people here produce it in a large scale that can at least be okay with the farmers that we have in the Bono East region or the Tano Boase here alone?
Currently, as at December 2022, GPR from our database, we're working with over 9,000 farmers, where we buy our organic product from them to process and add value to it, and then get it back to the market, both the domestic and then the international market, and then also get this our fertilizer to most of the farmers that we are working with. And we are open to any other farmer that will want some of this our fertilizer, organic fertilizer to use. That is more same like the synthetic chemical fertilizer, but it adds more nutrients to the soil and does not kill the microorganism as the synthetic chemical do. I remember one of our communities where we went, they had a good irrigation system. Within 5 years of using this intensive chemicals, they have to pause using their land, because when you apply fertilizer again, it does not work. And then that will not give us a future good crops, and then does not create a good future for us. Therefore, if we want a future where Ghana and Africa can depend on its own, then we need to be able to create our own system where we can use and reuse like our seeds and our waste into fertilizer, and then maintaining and then improving our soil.
Okay, before your final message, whatever that you did, a wrap up because of our time.
Exactly.
So you just wrap up. And then...
my final message is that our individuals have a role to contribute to our agribusiness sector. And one of the ways we can do is to add value to whatever we are producing. And then also identify that we do not have enough machines that the other European countries will have to use. But we have a different farming system, that is the subsistence farming. That is the peasant farming system, where small group of farmers will be able to cultivate the same crop or different crops at the same time. And they should have a team that will be able to process all this. And at least from there, we can be able to add a lot to the country's revenue and then to the country's GDP. I hope together we can build a good future Ghana.
Okay, thank you very much. I have been engaging an official at the Ghana Permaculture Institute, Mr. Charles Katere, and then he has taken us through a lot of things that they do here at Ghana Permaculture Institute, located in Tano Boase of the Bono East region. We'll continue to follow the activities they do here, and then keep our viewers updated on the need for farmers to use or apply organic fertilizer on their farms.